Dr. Shefali, thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Sauna Sessions. We're so honored to have you here.
Thank you.
I've been diving deep into the amazing work that you do and have done. You've transformed so many lives with just potent wisdom. It's logical and it hits the heart. I think it comes from the heart and it reaches the heart. But what I'm curious about, you talk about parenting, you speak to relationships. I'm curious about your upbringing and, what was the little girl Shefali like? Tell me about her. What were her interests? What was her upbringing like?
Well, she really was very blessed because she had parents that were amazing. Like I always tell my mother, I am nowhere near a conscious parent as you were. Wow. Like my mother was like the mother's mother. But that girl learned early that she grew up in a very toxic patriarchy in India. And,
This is Mumbai, right?
In Mumbai, okay. Very good, yes. And, as a young girl, I had to face a lot of sexual advances from men because of the way I looked. I didn't look like the typical Indian girl. And I had to learn very early to protect myself and understand that the patriarchy was suffocating, was dominating. Nothing wrong with the patriarchy if it's benevolent. But if it's toxic, then it has elements that really subjugate those under it, like the women and the children. So I learned early that I was kind of unprotected and voiceless. And that filled me with a fire to protect myself and to protect others. And I always used to tell myself that one day when I'm older, I'll be that voice, for women, for children. Wow. And I ended up actually actualizing that dream. Wow. But it came from a lot of, unwanted attention as a child, especially male attention, which is very common in India, sadly so, because sexuality is so repressed there that it comes out in these perverted ways. I coped with it, but I learned early on that this is a sickness that needs to be treated and cannot be ignored. And it's still rampant in India, and I haven't cured it, but I have at least become a voice for those who cannot speak as articulately as I would have liked to.
And when you were, that's beautiful, and when you were a little girl and you said you wanted to be the voice, what was there did you ever think it would manifest as you are today?
No.
Okay.
We never imagined, right?
Okay.
And that's the beauty of life, I think, that it's unfathomable. It's often out of our imagination. And I always tell parents, your idea of who your kid should be is so limited compared to the potential of what they can be. Like, don't limit them by your imagination, because life is so wild. In no shape or form is my life today anything what I could have ever fathomed, even 5 years ago. Even 5 years ago. So that's the beauty of life. If you embrace it and you lean into it, it can take you to places, but you have to travel to those places. You have to be willing to go with life. Sometimes we resist life and want to stay attached to who we once were, but then you don't evolve. Part of evolving is to travel and flow with life and be curious and lean into it. And, the fact that I left India, right? Many people in my generation, under my circumstances, with my financial limitations, may not have even left. But I had a thirst, a wanderlust to leave. I was going to leave against all odds. Like there was nothing that was going to stop me because I wanted to explore myself outside that confining context. I wanted to see more.
Awesome. So yesterday I did a Google search, and this Google search, it wasn't a search, but I typed in the words, "Why are my parents?" And then I allowed Google to fill in, with the most common search terms. And I saw a lot of interesting things, right? The most common terms that came up were, why are my parents so angry? Why are my parents mad at me? Why are my parents making me so depressed? What is this? What is this phenomenon that's happening with this battle between parents and children today?
Well, to be compassionate to parents, because I'm a parent and I see how difficult it is. It is literally the most hair-raising, difficult, torturous, impossible journey, but also the most beautiful. So I have compassion for parents. I think parents are lost because they were lost from childhood. And that's why I wrote this book called The Parenting Map, because I see parents in my practice as a psychologist coming to me asking for the tools. How do I handle my kid? How do I deal with these tantrums? How do I deal with my teenagers? Parents never went to school to become parents. Think about it. The most amazing, sacred, difficult job in the world. There's no license, there's no regulation, there's no degree. You just have to be kind of, horny, and that's it. That's it. So it's really tragic that and I have plenty of courses because I teach parents. But if you think about it, they don't go to university, how to become a kid, how to be emotionally sensitive and attuned to these little humans. We don't know how to deal with them. It's kind of the
Wild West.
The Wild West. And so then we just raise them like we were raised. And that is never a good thing. Never. So that's the tragedy. So parents are lost. They are reenacting their own childhood. They are caught up in these reactive patterns, and we just project the same crap that we got from our childhood onto our children. And every generation is different, and children feel that disconnection. Like, hey, stop treating me like I'm a you. I'm not you. I'm me. Like, see me, connect to me. Don't impose your ideals and expectations on me. Can you connect to who I am in my essence? And so children feel that disconnect, and they feel unworthy. And the plague of modern life today is unworthiness. So it stems from, parents are not the only contributor to unworthiness, but we have a lot of power, and we are the earliest contributors.
Yeah, it seems like a whole society is founded upon unworthiness.
It is.
Every time you turn on the TV or look at your phone, it's buy this, to look like this, to feel like this, to get like this, so you can be approved.
Exactly. We are feeding off a frenzy of needy dependency on what? On other people's opinions, other people's validation, because we're hungry for it. So, as much as we can bemoan culture, if we truly want to help culture, we have to understand it. And this feeding frenzy of see me, see me, see me, look at what social media has unleashed. Everybody has a camera, and everybody's taking a selfie. They're filming their workouts, their meal prep, what they're eating, their haircut, their dentist appointment. Everything. But what is at the core of that is this insatiable hunger to be seen as worthy and significant. So we have to have compassion for the human plague. We can deride it and scorn it, but it's not going to help us. We have to have compassion for this inner hunger, this addiction to wanting to be seen.
To be seen and to feel significant.
Yes.
To feel worthy. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, Robert Collier, he said, every night 2 billion people go to bed hungry, but every night 3 billion people go to bed hungry for a single word of appreciation.
Yeah.
It's like we're craving it, and we need that connection. I love what you say, not correction, connection.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Are there any, you mentioned cultures, and, I studied cultural anthropology, and I know you're world traveled. You've been around this lovely world. You're also a student of history. Are there any cultures, past or present, that have gotten it right when it comes to raising children?
I would love to be nostalgic and talk about, pre-agricultural revolution, before we were sedentary, when we were nomadic. It must have been amazing. But I don't know, I don't want to project onto the past. I think every culture has some beauty to it, but every culture is suffering because of this influx of, I don't want to just blame technology, but this influx of technology has kind of swept us away further from what makes us human, which is eye-to-eye contact, right? Face-to-face. We break bread together. We connect. We have real presence. And that is the key ingredient that's missing today. And I think we're seeing it in our youth. We're seeing mental health really decline. We're seeing suicide rates go up. Self-harming in young girls is at an astronomical, scary high. Teen boys are playing aggressive, violent games. And I know I'm speaking on strict gender lines, but just stereotypically. So right now we are in a crisis of disconnection. And technology has kind of allowed that to pervade our homes even more. You know, if you go into our teenagers' homes or rooms, you will see them on a screen.
Yeah.
So when you're spending time on a screen, you are not spending time somewhere else, which is person-to-person contact. And I think that's what builds connection, and that's what we need as humans.
Okay, I agree. And when I go out to dinners, for instance, lunches with my friends that have kids, sometimes they bring the kids along, and pretty much without fail, the kids are just locked into this screen.
Locked in.
Every time they're not engaged. They're not, even while they're eating, they're looking down at the screen, whether it's TikTok or whatever. I got a friend who they had a little baby, and I saw somebody give them a book, and the kid starts to like scroll on the book like it's an iPad. It's sad. What's the solution though? What's the, I know what are your thoughts on boundaries? Yeah, I know you're about letting the children kind of come to the points of enlightenment on their own, but is there a middle ground between the freedom and boundaries?
Of course, boundaries are like a key in every relationship. And parents make the mistake of either being too controlling or then being too permissive. But there's a beautiful, healthy in-between place that can only emerge. Healthy, sacred, conscious boundaries can only emerge when we are present, right? Otherwise, it's going to be too controlling or too permissive. But when we're present, I often tell parents that, the screens for a young child, addictive use of screens for a kid who's below the age of 14, 15 is like giving crack cocaine to a child. Like it,
Yeah.
It's because they cannot handle the stimulation of those dopamine hits that come, and their brain cannot steady itself within that atmosphere of constant stimulation. So absolutely, a parent should have strict boundaries.
What were your boundaries on? You have a daughter, right?
I was a little lucky, if I want to use that word, where she was 13 or 14 before the iPhone even became a thing.
Okay.
But I have to be honest, I was the first generation of parents that fell prey to this. I thought it was a great thing. I was like, oh my goodness, so excited. Remember when we first got our iPhones? What? I can check my email everywhere, anytime. We felt so efficient.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to give my daughter her phone, her smartphone. So smart. And very quickly, I realized what a tragic error that was, because it was addictive. And but I did manage in the early years, we had more control than now, where it's everywhere. So I used to have rules like no phone until homework is done, phone for only like 30 to an hour, and no phone in your bedroom. It's easy to do these things, at least till your kid is 16 or 17. Then they become really scary. Then you don't want to mess with them. But at least till 16 or 17, I really encourage parents to be very boundaried around the use of technology, not because they're being strict, but because they're being wise. It's like plain logical sense that you don't let your child be addicted to a screen and the algorithms that are built in till they can handle it. I don't think anyone can handle it, frankly. We are all taken up by it. We are all addicted to it. We have no control. And
do you have boundaries on yourself?
Very few, but this is my justification, okay? I work so much and I do so many things that I love. I see clients, I write books, I exercise, I go out in nature, I meditate. So my time on the phone to mindlessly scroll is limited. But I've also placed inbuilt boundaries, such as I'm not on most social media platforms. I don't even have them. I don't have the news. So it's very limited. But even with that limit, I can be honest and tell you, I'll get swept away. I have to literally yank my chin up and look at the sun. But I have the mindfulness to do that because I love being in nature. But our children don't look up at the sky anymore. Their entire spines are going to be curved, and we're going to start looking very different.
What a gruesome image that is.
Yeah.
I want to go back to parenting a little bit. One thing that I read a book a few years ago. It was called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And it was written by a guy, Shad Helmstetter, PhD. And he said that by the time the average child living in the average household is 18, he or she has been told the words no or you can't do that 148,000 times. No, you can't do that 148,000 times. Somebody says sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can break my heart. I don't know about you, but I remember the words that my parents used to say, my teachers, etc. How important is language in order to try to create an environment for a healthy child to live in?
Oh my God, it's so important. And it's really, our words come from our energy, right? Words don't just come from anywhere. They come from our philosophical mindset, our belief systems, and our energetic presence. So the words we choose, right? So one of the steps in my book is lean into the yes. Okay. Even if you want to say no, right? We parents love saying the word no. If the first thing is no. And then your kid will ask you, but why? And you have no answer sometimes because there's no reason. We just like, no, because you're asking.
Yeah.
Right. If you're asking, you know why? Because we operate out of fear. There's always a way to say yes, such as, suppose your kid says, mommy, let's go fly to the moon. You don't need to say no because but you lean into the yes, which means, really? You think we can fly to the moon? Only a 6-year-old or lower is going to ask that question, right? So you go, okay, let's try. And you meet them in their desire, right? The kid is going to give up within 3 minutes, right? He's going to be like, forget it, mom, we can't go to the moon. But you're leaning in to their desire. And you're letting them know that that's something I would want to do too. You're not weird. You're not having flighty dreams of fantasy. That's something I would want to do too. Yeah. What does that do to a child? It makes them feel not crazy, not stupid. You're not shaming them. You're actually telling them, I would want to do it too because it's an amazing thing you just thought of, but we can't. So in the same way, fast forward to the kid is 14 and he wants to go to Paris on this 5-star trip, okay, and spend $50,000. Of course, you're going to say no, but you don't have to go no. You go, oh my goodness, I would love that too. Why don't you earn some money and save it and call me when you're ready and maybe I'll match you. Maybe I'll contribute. There's no need to say no. Children are not stupid, right? If we can trust that they are human just like us and we're raising humans as much as we're raising children, then we can lean into the yes. But we operate out of so much fear, as if our kid is going to go to the moon or going to go to Paris and spend our money tomorrow. We live in such scarcity, right? So we're like, no. So that kid who grows up hearing the word no will eventually stop coming to us. Just like we do when we hear the word no from our friends. We just don't call that friend because that friend is useless to us. They're going to say no because they live in fear. I remember when I was first going to teach a meditation class in my 30s, my late 20s. I remember one of my friends said, but you can't teach meditation. You're not a monk. And she naysayed me. And I felt, oh, she's right. You know what? Who am I to think about teaching meditation? I'm not a monk. But thank goodness I knew that response from her was coming out of fear. And thank goodness I never listened to her. And I went ahead and taught meditation for 2 years. Because,
I'm glad you did.
Because if one is a student, one can be a teacher. So I didn't get limited by her limiting beliefs. But that's what we do to our children. By saying the word no incessantly and predictably, consistently. It's without rhyme, logic, or reason. We are teaching our children to doubt who they are, to, really negate their desires and chop off their fantasy, chop off their dreams for themselves.
Wow.
So it's very powerful how we respond to them.
What I'm kind of getting from you is that there's really no formula to be a conscious parent. It's more so being and holding a vibration, holding a state yourself, and the actions will arise from that state.
Yeah, but that state needs to be cultivated.
And this is my question to you. What are practices that can cultivate this state?
Right. And that's why I wrote this book, because I needed to give parents the how to develop that state. Once you arrive at that state, you're golden. And you'll trip still, even if you're in that state. But the arrival to the state, that journey, takes self-work. Okay. And the two areas that we need to work on as conscious parents are these. The first area is you have to heal your own emotional crap from childhood. You got to work on your own self-worth. Everything from your child is not personal. It's not against you. If you haven't worked on your self-worth, if your 3-year-old doesn't fall asleep, or your 6-year-old says, "Mommy, I don't like your scrambled eggs," we are going to lose our shit, because we're going to take everything as a defiance because we don't have self-worth. So that is a core area that we need to work on. The second area we work on as conscious parents, and I talk about it in my book, is we need to deconstruct the lies that culture has told us around what is success, what is happiness. Should I raise a happy child? Every parent thinks they should. Beauty, achievement, religion, all the core areas that our children are going, race, right? I'm raising a brown girl who's mixed race. I needed to really work her up to understand what racism is and how to debunk it and how to combat it. I raised a daughter, so I needed to let her know about the institution of beauty and how to debunk it, how to understand the lies that we girls have been told. I had to debunk the whole notion of, you have to raise a happy child. I teach that in the book. No, we don't raise a happy child.
No, what do we raise?
A child.
Okay.
Who's having an authentic life experience, right? They're going to have a life experience. If they're not happy, that's authentic. Who's happy all the time? But we have this idea that we are successful parents if our children are happy all the time. And we will guilt trip our child. I mean, I've done it to my child. If you were living in India, where I came from, you'd be happy in America. And she's like, "Mom, I've never been to India." This was way back. And I live here, and right now I'm not happy. Can I have my moment? But we parents believe that we need to micromanage their moods, their feelings, because we want control. We believe they are our puppets. And when they are happy, we feel like we're successful. And it's annoying to be around someone who's grumpy because our feelings were never honored as children. So we have a really hard time honoring theirs. And then the idea of success. Parents have been told, really, really ingrained with this belief system that your child needs to be a superstar. Otherwise, you are failing as a parent. So imagine if you have that belief system, every time your child comes home with a B grade, which is a solid B. What's wrong with a solid B? You are having a fit. Or if they have 98 on 100, so many adults have told me about how when they came home to their mom or dad with a 98, the parent would say, "What about the other two?"
Wow.
So kids carry these legacies of shame, blame, guilt, and fear into their adult lives. And then we wonder why, as adults, we are addicted, we are medicating ourselves, we're falling sick, because we are loaded with the burden of simply never being good enough.
I had a realization a few weeks ago when I attend, certain mastermind events. And for those people who don't know what a mastermind is kind of when you get a group of people together. In this case, it's like the top people in certain industries, and whether they're making a lot of money or they're super successful, and we kind of share recipes, share formulas on what's working. And what I've noticed is an undertone in that the successful people seem to be looking for something. And I kind of reverted back to childhood. They seem like they're so successful, they're so driven in order to get mommy and daddy's love.
Yeah.
They never got it, and they feel as though if they achieve something, if they get the gold star, if they get the trophy, then they'll finally be accepted by mommy and daddy. Is this what you see as well?
Oh my goodness. Do you know how many times I've told clients, look at the door. Mom or dad are not walking through anymore. They're not coming because subconsciously we're still waiting for mom and dad to come and give us the tiara or the crown and to finally acknowledge us as worthy. But that's why at some point in our lives, typically in our mid-20s, I would say, we need to wake up and realize that the time for mom and dad to see you has gone. So now we need to do the work to reparent ourselves. And that's a beautiful journey we can take. And I almost say to people, it's okay if they screwed up, because there's no parent I have met who hasn't screwed up. So the job we have to awaken is our responsibility. It's our sacred obligation to ourselves to do the unfinished business that our parents never did, without blaming them, without resenting them, but to use this life. That's evolution. What is evolution? It's to truly awaken into your own wholeness. You are already whole, but you have been disconnected from that. And your parents couldn't do that for you, couldn't give that to you because they weren't given it for themselves. So in our adulthood, it's our job now to reparent ourselves. And that requires two things. One is healing the past, but also really a big part of awakening is to understand the lies of culture and how we have bought into lies. And to awaken from the matrix and realize that you don't have to be part of that toxic system just because everyone else is going down like sheep to the slaughterhouse. You don't have to. But that takes courage to walk away.
Oh, yeah.
You will be lonely.
Yeah.
But that's the path of awakening.
It's a revolution. It's an inner revolution. It's the hero's journey.
Yes.
But we don't see too many people walk that path. Why is that?
Because it's lonely.
Because it's lonely.
And the pull is to be part of the crowd. And those who are left behind will give you hell for leaving. They'll be like, you leaving? Don't come back. So you're faced with this impossible, I don't know what's ahead of me. They're telling me I can't come back unless I go back and conform. I don't want to conform, but I don't know what's out there. Maybe there are wolves out there. So I always call this phase no woman's land or no man's land. However, if we're brave enough to go through this birth canal, I went through it. I found I almost created my own community on this side. There are people on this side, but you have to be willing to walk away from the old, let go, detach, and give yourself the chance to rebirth. What a wonderful thing that is. It's scary though.
Yeah, it takes a faith. It takes a surrender, a courage to leap and have the faith that you're gonna grow wings on the way down.
Well, what it really takes is that your inability to bullshit anymore, like your inability to wear the masks, your inability to play the game, your inability to be in your false self. You tell yourself, I will forsake connection, that connection to that old life for my connection to myself. So once you arrive at connection to yourself, it's kind of a no-brainer because you have no choice. You cannot lie to yourself anymore. You cannot sell yourself short anymore. You are so in love with yourself that you must nurture that. And if the old part of your life does not nurture that, you have no choice but to leave. And whether you leave emotionally or physically is not the point. You have to create a new life for yourself.
The cave you fear holds the treasure you desire.
Exactly.
Getting through that that canal, right?
Yes.
Is beauty on the other end.
Yes.
So Dr. Shefali, you are a clinical psychologist and you espouse wisdom teachings, spiritual teachings. What is it that is found in the spiritual teachings that you couldn't get in academia?
Oh, great question. A lot. So I follow the teachings of the mystics or the Buddha, who really taught a way of living which was grounded in the present moment, right? So how to live in the present, how to be awake in the present means that you have to relinquish your attachment to everything, to live here now, and then to live in the next moment here now, and then to live in the next moment here now, comes with a principle. And the principle is that of utter impermanence, which means nothing is permanent, which we know on an intellectual level, but to live like that. So you are constantly fluid in your identity. You're not attached to who you were yesterday, or how you think of me, or your child thinks of you, or your parents think of you. You realize that you are constantly changing. And living like that allows you to be free of any attachments to a fixed label or a fixed, your profession or your achievements or people's approval of you. You liberate yourself because you realize that it's all fluid and it's all impermanent. And people will see you as they see themselves, ultimately. So it's an illusion. No one really sees you, because all they see you is through how they see themselves. So no one really can see anyone really. So that utter subjectivity is the illusion that we are chasing. We're chasing an illusion of, can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me? But no one can see you really, because they can only see you through their own lens.
Their filter.
So once you realize that, you're liberated, because you realize the only person who can see themselves is you yourself. And that too is changing every moment. So there's nothing to hold on to. So this philosophy allows you to realize the futility of these attachments we have to our shoes, to our face, to our wrinkles, to our hair, to our relationships. And you liberate yourself from the burden of these dependencies. So you become freer in how you live. You flow through life much easier. You know, you can if somebody steals your money, you can say, okay, it was just money. If somebody dents your car, you're like, okay, it was just my car. You're not so deeply attached. So you're not reactive all the time. You're awake to the realization that these things are just meaningless form. They are functional, but in the big scheme of things, they are meaningless.
What are practices that allow someone to embody this state of awareness?
Well, I would say, meditation and mindfulness, which means centering yourself in the present moment through your breath. There are different ways to meditate, but I do through the breath, which teaches you that this moment by moment existence is so transient. So why are we clinging on to something that happened 5 minutes ago? Because it's not here, right? Every time I'm upset, I stop myself and I ask myself, okay, what are you upset about? And it's typically something from yesterday or the past, or something I'm imagining will come in the future. And then I ask myself, is your present moment okay? And the answer is typically yes. It's my thoughts about the present moment that are not okay. But if I'm breathing, I'm okay. But how I'm thinking about it is messing me up. So you have to change the way you think about it. And typically the way you think about it has to do with some fear about the future or regret about the past. If it's not happening right now, you're good. So cultivating that awareness takes practice. It's like building a muscle. But when you do, and especially when you're a parent, you begin to live in the present with your children, and children live in the present moment so beautifully. You're here right now. If you have a child, they'll come to you screaming like a lunatic one minute, and the next minute they're so happy. And you're like, what happened to you? And they're like, I'm happy now. Children are the masters of living in the present moment. So present moment living is the key to, for me, living an authentic life.
Power of now. Be here now.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Do you believe in soulmates?
I believe everybody and anybody can be your soulmate if you take the lessons for your soul. You have to take the lessons for your soul. But I do not necessarily believe somebody's predestined or, it's again, I'm here right now. Right now you are my soulmate because you're feeding my soul. So you're my mate. But I know what you mean in that big, very fantastical way where people think that, somebody's destined for me. I believe my child is my soulmate. My friends are my soulmates. I believe people come into your life as we know, for different chapters, it's up to you to take what you need to learn to evolve. Then even your worst enemy is your greatest soulmate, because they helped you evolve. So it's what you take out of the relationship. Somebody isn't coming to give you anything. You have to take the jewels. And my greatest jewels have come from my worst relationships. My worst relationships, quote unquote worst relationships, have been my greatest soul teachers. So it's what we take from the relationship, right?
There's this one practice, I'm not sure if it's a Buddhist practice or just some esoteric practice, but the practice is to imagine that everyone
is your mother.
Well, I like that one.
Right.
Yeah, similar.
Yes.
Everyone is enlightened except you.
Yeah, the same thing, right? Having the humility that everyone has something to teach you. Everybody has something to give you, but you have to see that. Right? So then when you do see that, and I talk about that for parenting, see everything your child does as having an element of grace, having an element of a superpower. Right? Just today I was with a mother and she was complaining that her kid doesn't listen to her. And I said, let's reframe that. Maybe your kid is just lost in their own thoughts. And she was like, yeah, he's a dreamer. So I said to her, let's find that's a superpower. They are so content in their own imagination. That could be a superpower. So that's what we need to do with life. Take every moment as a teacher to fill our soul. And every moment is replete with that. But we have to be open to that. Right?
There was a businessman. He was friends with Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich. His name was W. Clement Stone. And W. Clement Stone, they wrote books together. But he was very wealthy, one of the wealthiest people in the country at the time. And he had a kind of a mantra. And his mantra was, that's good.
Yeah.
So whatever was happening, whether it was a calamity in his business or people were going crazy, he would say, oh, that's good. And he would find the good in it.
Find the good in it. That's the leaning into the yes. Find the jewel. When my daughter upsets me or triggers me, I have now trained myself to ask, what is the good here? Dig for the gold, be an alchemist, alchemize the moment. There's always something amazing. And then you can correct. Sure. Then we can tell them, now tie your shoes, please. But first, let's, participate in the wonder of what could be good here. And if you cultivate this awareness that life and you can co-create your reality together. So life is happening. So you're wearing this beautiful dress and it rains on you, or 10 pigeons shit on you. Okay. Now what? Right? You couldn't control that, but you are a co-creator of that experience with life. So you could laugh. You could take 10,000 pictures. You could, memorialize the dress, put it up in a frame. It's hilarious. You get to choose in that moment how you co-create that reality. Nobody and nothing is acting without your co-creation. You are part of that. So with parenting, can you imagine how much we are a part of our children's life experience? And so we act as if just the child is at fault and we have to go fix the child. But we are co-creating our experience of the child. If my child is difficult, or I call my child, oh my goodness, my child is so stubborn. I always ask the parent, oh, who decided that? I say very innocently, oh, your child is stubborn, really? You find him stubborn? And the parent will go, yes, my child is so stubborn. I go, wow, you find the child stubborn? Yes, I find the child stubborn. And then I go, but who finds the child stubborn? They go, me, I find my child stubborn. I go, yeah, you find your child stubborn. You are part of how you experience your child, or how you experience reality, or how you experience your partner. And we miss that. We just act as if the child is stubborn. No, you experience the child as stubborn. I may love that stubborn child and find the child creative and entrepreneurial and brave. You have a problem with your child. And I always used to tell myself as a parent, my child with another parent may be having a great time right now. So can I become that other parent? Instead of making my child another child, I used to challenge myself, can you become the parent that enjoys your child? You understand? Because we're always telling our children to become better. But I used to always challenge myself, no, you become the parent that my child is going to get along with.
Be the change you want to see in the family.
Exactly.
Well, Wow, love that. And meditation is the practice. Centering yourself in this present moment will allow you to live a life of responsiveness, not reactiveness.
Yeah, and people really think that meditation is a religion. You know, sometimes people will come to me and go, "Oh, I'm Jewish, I can't meditate." I go, that has nothing to do with it. Meditation is a practice.
Yeah.
It is a vital practice, like going to the gym. And it is a practice of constantly bringing your awareness to where you are, which is here. You're here right now.
Yeah.
Are you noticing where you are? Are you paying attention to who's in front of you? Are you attuning to what is happening right here, right now? And most of us are checked out. And meditation is the cultivation of that awareness that creates presence so that you can live your life fully.
Yeah, I think it's the master key. It's the blueprint, right? I mean, it should have come with. We should come with instructions when we're born.
Well, part of our curriculum in school should have been meditation
100%.
in before the break, after the break, you know, after school. Yeah.
What a world we would live in if that was the case. And I think I see meditation as a birthright. It's getting to know who you really are.
Yeah.
Your true self, beyond the concepts, beyond the ideas, beyond the body.
Yes.
Who are we really?
Yes. And who we are really is just this essence or this energy or this breath. But we never allow ourselves to sit still enough without the noise to get in touch with that.
100%. So we got a couple more minutes, and I wanted to play a little game. I call this game the best ever. And I'm just going to ask you a few questions about the best things in your life.
Okay.
What was the best advice you ever got?
Be here now.
Best investment you ever made?
In my own parenting journey.
Best time in your life?
Every time is the best time, really. But I think this last decade of my life has been the best. Yeah.
Beautiful. Best book you've ever read?
I would say The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Best quote you've ever heard?
You're catching me off guard.
Be here now. I mean, that's a good one too.
Yeah, I would say that would be the best. The most eloquent, simple code of living. Yes.
Yeah, it's 3 words. I mean, that's it. That's it. What's the best practice for parents?
To understand what a powerful opportunity they have. Like, it's the awareness that this relationship with your children is the most powerful invitation for you to heal. So if you can keep saying that over and over to yourself, then every hardship with your kid gets alchemized into that treasure, right? But if we resent our children or we think that we're raising them to become something, then we're missing the whole point of this journey.
I had another question. It just came back up. How does somebody know? This is for the unmarried people, like me, the people without kids too. But how does somebody know when it's the right time to get married or to have kids?
Well, you know, marriage is an institution, so you never have to do that. Okay, you can be with someone without the institution.
Okay.
It's just a piece of paper and it's legal and, you know, judicial. You may not want to do that, but you can marry the person without that, right? So you don't have to go through that ceremony.
Yeah, okay, good.
So having children, though, I will tell you, especially today, the modern world we're living in right now, is something people should severely question and think about, because we are living in these nuclear pods which make it impossible to raise children. Everyone wants a career, so no one wants to be at home. So who's going to be at home with these needy beings? They are going to be consumed by social media. Strangers are going to overtake their lives. We're not living in community. We're cut off from community. We're more distracted than ever. So I would seriously tell young couples or the person considering to have a child, think about it. Are you willing to be there? It's going to take, I don't want to call it a sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice. It is just what you need to do. Right? If you want to write a book, you have to sit there for hours and write a book. You want to have a child, you have to sit there for hours and be present. So I don't call it a sacrifice, but it is what the job requires. And I think today many young women or men are resentful that they have to sit at home and take care of the children. But that's what children need. And if you're not able to do it, and if you're not feeling this overwhelming maternal, I say maternal because the caregiving, it can be a man or a woman, but who has that maternal instinct, don't do it. You know, you're not saving the world. The world doesn't need your kid. Your kid is not going to solve world poverty or cancer. So it's okay. Don't have one. You're not doing anyone a favor. This takes a lot of spiritual practice, presence, dedication. So if you're not willing to put your all in, because the best parent is fucking up their kid, sorry to say. So imagine the reluctant parent, right? I've messed up my kid a zillion times over, and I tried so hard not to. I came in full force. So if I'm doing it, imagine the reluctant parent who thinks they need to do it because they're fulfilling a prescription list. No one needs to do it anymore. People need to give themselves the permission, guilt-free, don't do it, you know, and embrace that choice as well. Having children, though, is a trip, and it's a crazy, amazing adventure as well. Even though they're very frustrating. It's like the minute I say they're frustrating, I go, but they're so cute. And the minute I say they're so cute, I go, but they're damn frustrating. So they're their package because they're human.
It's life. It's life. The ups and downs, the sweet, the sour.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful answer. I really resonate with that. Last question I ask every guest. It's the magic wand question. If you could wave a magic wand on the earth, and tomorrow, whatever your wish was for the earth would be granted, what would that magic wish be?
Wow, I have so many. I would say that parents become conscious, because that is the start of the child's life. And so imagine generations upon generations of conscious parents, we would not be as dysfunctional as we are today, but truly conscious, not just talking consciousness, really embracing connection, presence, wholeness, abundance. The world would be completely different. I always say that the solution to the world's problems lies in the evolution of the parent.
The solution to the world's problems lies in the evolution of the parent. Wow. And I think your book might be that magic wand, The Parenting Map.
I hope
Dr.
so.
Shefali, thank you so much for being here. You have bestowed so much wisdom on us today. I think what greater work can be done? You know, you're breaking generational curses, as some people say. You're healing the world. It all starts in the family, and it all starts in the parent. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Where can people look out for you, follow your work, get your book?
Yeah, so they can go to Dr. for Dr. Shefali.com. That's my website. I have lots of courses, free summits. And then they can find me on Instagram at Dr. Spelled Out Shefali.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Sauna Sessions. Thank you guys for listening. Rate this episode. Let me know what you think. What was your favorite moment of this episode? And tune in next week. Peace.